Over the next 2 minutes, I want to make you think about and reflect on the rates of cognitive participation that you have in your classroom. So what do I mean by that? Well, in terms of cognitive participation, what I really mean is how much your students are actually cognitively participating and thinking deeply at regular periods of time in your lesson. Now, there's quite often students can be sat in front of us, and I've used the term before about mental truancy, where they're here in body, but they're not in mind. There's a great quote on this that says, and this is from Daniel Willingham, that says, memory is the residue of thought. So when we break that down, what it means is we need to get students to be thinking in order for them to remember things. So the more that we can get them to think and cognitively participate in our lessons, the better it's going to be for their understanding, their comprehension, and their long-term learning. So how do we do that? Well, great ways to do that are things like cold calling, where actually you put a question into the ether, you have a look around the classroom, nobody knows who's going to answer it, so everyone has to think, and then you choose a student. Other things like mini whiteboards, getting every student to actually write an answer, so everyone has to participate, everyone has to think. Other things like letting or enabling students to work in silent focus, so they've all got to work independently on their own and come up with their own answers without any help from you. You know, there's going to be 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes of silent focus. You have to work through it on your own. And also embracing struggle, letting students actually work independently on a difficult task and not give them any help. So they've got to cognitively work out the answer. So the more we can do this, the better it's going to be for them in the long term. And I really want you to reflect on the next lessons that you teach, and maybe lessons that you have taught. How much of what you're doing is just chalk and talk, and how much are students able to just sit there and allegedly be engaged and be compliant, but not have to cognitively participate. They can sit there, they can just wait for you to say, copy this down, write this off the board. Those are lower levels of cognitive engagement. Or how much are you actually giving them an opportunity to really, really engage in the subject matter? And thinking about the lessons that you are going to plan over the next few days and weeks, how can you give more opportunities for higher levels of cognitive participation in your lesson, so that, going back to that quote, memory is the residue of thought. The more thought and the more deep thinking we can give our students, or the opportunities we can give for our students, the more they're going to remember.